Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhedu Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastva Nivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. So we are doing what is called Ananda Mimamsa. That's the topic that we are taking up in the Pancadasi, chapter 11 through 15. Ananda Mimamsa. So just to clarify and reiterate, what is Ananda Mimamsa? So Mimamsa in the Vedantic language, it's a technical language, and it's a technical word. It's a technical word in Vedanta, just like you say mouse. So mouse is a very technical word pertaining to the context under which the word mouse is said. So the same word can be good for a living mouse, or the same word can be good for a inert mouse. It all depends on the context. So the word Mimamsa in general also means analysis in general. But in the Vedantic sense, the Mimamsa means vichara. So vichara means an enquiry, a very focused thinking. It's thinking, of course, it's mental activity, but a mental activity which is focused on the nature of the subject matter. And here the subject matter is Ananda, joy. How do I get joy? This is the enquiry, this is the focus, this is the vichara. And I think a good word that Swami Dayananji used to use in English to translate the word Mimamsa or vichara is contemplate. I think it's a good word, contemplation. So contemplation just doesn't mean general thinking, general talking to people, which all involves thinking, no doubt about it. But the contemplation means a much more focused thinking, and having to do with the totality of my experience, not just the external experience, but also involves the internal thoughts, my attitudes, my what is called Adhyatmika Vidya. So the whole package pertaining to a particular context is called contemplation. The particular context here is a contemplation on Ananda. So here what it means is, let's just look at it. So the contemplation of Ananda is given in the Shastra. But what the Shastra says is, here is how you should contemplate. So the methods that we are learning, which we will continue to do today, at the end of chapter number 11, today we'll finish chapter 11, doesn't mean something which is bookish, but it means how to contemplate. And it asks you to do it. If the teacher contemplates, then it's not enough for you. You have to learn to contemplate. You have to learn to think, to be absorbed, to analyze, to focus. This is what is called mimamsa. This is the meaning of the word mimamsa. So in some ways, the Shastra is teaching us how to think. Because our thinking is giving us wrong information. Our thinking that what my experiences in the world are very real, and whatever it happens to me, it is, I have to accept that. This is a kind of like a childish view, really speaking. You have to learn to think, to put it in proper context. The data has to be analyzed. You have to figure out what is real, what is not real. All that requires is the ability to think and to analyze. This is what is called mimamsa. So we all have to do that. You know, several of you have indicated to me that, my gosh, we have done a lot of texts. We have taken up a lot of texts in the last few years. And I often see this. Sometimes I'll say, well, haven't you enrolled in this class? And I think you are quite honest and you are polite to me, and you say, well, you know what, I have taken a lot of classes with you, but I want to now put it into practice. I have to live it. And so I cannot keep on taking more classes because I'm not really living up to what the classes are telling me. Well, I get this input from time to time, and I think it's pretty really reasonable. But there is a flaw in that. The flaw is that if you think that after reading a text like any Upanishad or Prakarana Grantha and so on, okay, you read that, this is chapter 1, chapter 2 and so on, now I'm familiar with it, now I can put it in. And yeah, it may have some effect on my life, but then I have to live my life, and I don't know to what extent I'm better and so on. So you kind of ignore the advice from the texts. So the meaning of Shravanam, really speaking, is how to think, how to approach things. Because as I think today's class also, which says that your mind, if it thinks properly, can free you. If you think improperly, can keep you bound. Yeah, there's a verse that I think is going to come. So, your Gita also says your mind can be your best friend, it can be your enemy. So thinking properly is what is involved in the word mimamsa. So really this is what we are doing. And so chapter 11, I hope you kind of review it and then think about it, because mimamsa requires some repetition, some revision, thinking about it again and again, and you have to really absorb all of that. And as Swami Paramarthananda pointed out, it's a very good example that just simply eating doesn't really do it. You have to absorb the food before it becomes nutrition. And so the learning to absorb can only come from a very careful analysis. Kind of like this, I'm just putting my hand on the face. You can do that. That means I have to think. I have to really, and just the word apply in your life perhaps is not as useful. That I have to apply in my life. And I think Swami Puja Swami Dayanandji also used to say that this is not theory and practice. It's not like you learn, just like my second granddaughter is now doing. She's learning to drive, and so she has to really learn, where to stop, and all those kinds of road rules. And then she has to start driving, which is called an application of all that. This is not like that. Not like that. This is not theory and practice, but it means learning to think properly. Anyway, long preamble to what we are doing, but I just thought I would spend some time just clarifying that for you. Okay, with that, let us start. So, in the last class, in terms of the Ananda Mimamsa, it was pointed out how the Atma Vidya, the self-knowledge, Brahma Vidya, presents Sukham to us. Sukham means a feeling of completion, of happiness, of relief, of freedom. Same thing, there are some minor variations, but Sukham means I'm happy. So what we are doing is, how does self-knowledge presents Sukham to you? This is what we are discussing, right? All of this, if you just review all the previous classes. And so what we are normally expecting is that we fulfill certain desires that were blocking us from enjoyment. And once those desires are fulfilled, then we have a momentary moment of joy, momentary place of joy. This is usual to us. So we are somewhat familiar with what the sources of joy are, food, intimacy, friendship, new experiences. This is why, it's very interesting, really speaking, why people travel to new places. This is also a source of joy. How does that become, in some ways of really looking at it, it is kind of like distracting you from yourself. Just like alcohol or any other drug does. This is the reason for the happy hour. The reason for the happy hour being so popular, of course, because it is, at a discount. You can get 2 drinks for the price of 1, and we are very attracted to that. But more than that, what alcohol does, what going to a bar and drinking, is that your estimation of your life and how troublesome it is in terms of your own self-estimation is dropped for a while. is distracted. You are just enjoying the level of alcohol, and you can forget your troubles for a short time. Do you know what? This is what travel does too. If you really analyze why people go to new places, and this is why people will say, I haven't been to that place, I haven't been to Turkey yet, and Iceland is very important, and so on and so forth. We have to see how this works. How it works is that when you visit Iceland and you see the beauty in the nature and the new sights that you have not seen before, your mind gets so absorbed in that it forgets your own troubles. So it's a kind of like, forgive me for criticizing this or anything. I'm just giving you the insights as to how the mind works. But it is kind of like a happy hour. It's one happy week. This is why people say that. Oh my gosh, we went to Egypt and all those pyramids were breathtaking. And they were. And the reason for the breathtaking is that your mind is just looking at, this room, and you've already seen this room. What's the big thing about it? You can rearrange furniture and that might distract you for a while, but after how often can you keep on redistributing furniture? So it's the same thing. So your mind says, what else? Anything else? Yes, Swami Chinmayanand gave this very beautiful example. I tell you, I remember that example so well. So there was this guy who went to a Siddha Purusha. Siddha Purusha means the one that has a lot of powers, and it's possible. You can levitate and you can do all kinds of stuff if you really do some yogic meditation and yoga, and so people can have special powers. So he knew there was this person that had the special powers, and he said, sir, or you can just postulate that he prayed to Vishnu or Shiva or somebody like that, very powerful person, and said, what I really want is a genie that I can tell what to do and it immediately does it. This is what I want. So it's very possible that they might tell you, okay, if you really want, I don't know why you want that, but supposing you want that, here's what you need to do. You have to do so many pujas, you have to give out so much money, this or the other. So he says, okay, I'll do that. And he did it. He did it. So the Mahatma, who he was praying to, said, all right, this genie is almost yours, but I have to tell you one thing. There's a condition. The condition is that this genie has to be kept busy. Okay? This is the condition. So he says, no problems. I have a lot of work for him to do. I have to get my garden done. I've got to do this. I have to win the lottery. There's so much to do. My list of my desires is endless. So that's not a problem. Sure. So the Mahatma said, okay, well, just please listen to the whole thing. This genie has to be kept busy. If he doesn't get something to do specifically, he's going to devour you. This is the condition. The person says, okay, well, thanks for warning me, but I have plenty of work for him to do. Okay? So in the beginning, the genie came and he said, okay, just do this. Construct this new house for me. And go to get the groceries. Done. Okay. And go to the bank and get me some new cash. Done. Anything else, sir? Okay, yeah. Pretty soon the guy ran out of things to ask him to do. So the genie was saying, okay, I give you limited amount of time. If you don't tell me what to do, you know what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to devour you. I'm going to eat all of you in one swoop. That's it. He says, oh my God. So he went back to the same God and said, oh, you are so right. I thought that I'll keep him busy, but I can't. So what am I supposed to do? He says, okay, all right. I thought you would never ask, but tell him to do this. Okay, tell him to make a big pole and ask him to go up and down the pole continuously until you ask him to do something, and at the end of that you say, go back to the pole and just keep on doing up and down. This was the solution. This was the solution. So really speaking, we should see, I didn't really quite understand that when Swami Chinmayanandaji was giving this example. I laughed and I said, oh, what a nice example, this or the other, but didn't absorb the importance of that until I began to think about it. And this is our situation in life. So, if my mind is not kept occupied in either it is completely subdued because of drinking or taking some other drugs or anything, or it is kept busy in going to Iceland. And from Iceland I have to go and see the African migration of animals. Okay, that's also done. The mind says, okay, what else? Okay, now I have to go to South America, Pichu Michu, or Michu Picchu, or whatever that is. I've got to go there. Okay? And while you're there, it's very happy. The mind is very absorbed and it doesn't really bother you. And then it says, okay, what else? And you say, I don't have anything else to do. Then you start thinking, I'm a miserable self. I have really, my life is I have not accomplished much. What am I supposed to do? Life is boring. I'm alone. It kind of devours your own estimation of yourself. This is what our life is, really speaking. Think about it. We disown our own self. We disown our ability to discover that I'm okay. Why? Because I've abdicated that responsibility to the genie called the mind. Sad state of affairs. So, so what I was saying was that up until now, my sources of sukha, of happiness, is all based on my experiences. And as I progress in my life, I get better at it. I choose the experiences carefully, weed out the experiences that I know cause problems, embrace experiences that I know are giving me happiness. But all this time I have subdivided and given the responsibility to my mind to give me happiness at various sources. Okay? But I don't know if the self-knowledge is part of that experience that gives me sukham or not. This I don't know. You don't know that. I have no idea. I can do this I know. I can go to Africa and be happy. I can go to Hawaii. I can eat ice cream. All those kinds of things I know. But self-knowledge as a source of happiness, what does that really mean? It's a very funny situation, honestly. I mean, just last night I was at a dinner party for Rajiv Malhotra. So one of my friends had invited me, and there were several other people, about 14, 15 other people, and I knew about half of them. The other 7 or 8 people I had never met before, so we introduced ourselves, and so usually the same old thing, how are you, what are you doing? So what do you do? What do you say? I said, I'm retired. Well, how do you spend your time? I'm teaching Vedanta. What is Vedanta? So what do you tell them? So he said, Vedanta is our Vedic Shastra. What does the Vedic Shastra tell you? These are all Indians, Hindus. So it's not as though they are completely oblivious of what this is, but they have no idea what it means. So their thinking is, when I go to the parties, all the discussion is where are you going next? What experiences are you going to do? I did this, I've done this, what are you doing? What can I say? So I say, the only thing I say, I said, I'm very busy. I have some students and I give some classes so they'll say, okay, that's a guy is doing something, some teaching. Okay, good. I don't know why he's teaching, but at least they're somewhat satisfied. And a couple of times, in fact, just yesterday, there was a young person who's a nephew of a friend of mine. So he said, why are you doing this? He was interesting. He went at least a couple of steps more. So I told him a little bit about that. And you know what I normally say without insulting people or shutting them off or anything is to say, this is an inquiry about the truth about 3 things. About the world, about God, and about myself. And so that keeps them somewhat interested. Oh, interesting. 3 things. Yeah, God, world, you. That makes sense. They don't ask any further, and there's not generally have any time for it any further. Anyway, what I'm saying is that Atma Vidya as a source of happiness, of ananda, is missing from our vocabulary. But for those of us that have dared to inquire, there is something secret and funny going on, which is not only is Atma Vidya one of the sources of joy, in fact, it is the source of all joys. So forget about the source of all joys. That I cannot visualize that. This is too much. So this is why the source of all joy has to be really told sparingly. What should be told is that at least see that Atma Vidya is the source of some of the joy. It is one of the sources. Well, that I can at least accept to inquire into. Even that I don't quite get, but at least I'm willing to give you that much space. So you can say, is studying Vedanta will give me as much peace as accomplishing some big task? Say yes. Oh, interesting. Okay. Will it give me as much joy as eating ice cream? Potentially yes. Okay, I understand that. So to do the intermediate mimamsa analysis, intermediate means that it's one of the, I know about 55 different sources of joy, this is number 56. Okay, this is my accept. Then the next step is, this is not really enough. In fact, you have to go further. And it's an interesting thing. So the chapter number 11 that we are now finishing, I was hoping to finish it today, but the way I'm going, I might have to take another class. Or maybe not, I don't know. I'll try to wrap it up quickly. But then the chapter 12, which we're going to do next, is that of from the standpoint of a person who says, all this is highfalutin things and I don't understand how to do this. Give me a simpler way to analyze. And I understand that this is just a baby steps. I get it. I'm not quite adept enough to do all of this. This is called Yogananda. So in Brahmananda, it's called Yogananda, which is chapter 11. So the next one is something much simpler. So that we will come to. Okay? But here, for the time being, we should at least see that the partial source of joy is actually only possible if it is the total source of joy. And this can be done through the proper contemplation, proper mimamsa. That really the Atma, the source, is the source of everything. And we have started to do this. You remember we did the analysis of the joy of eating ice cream. And we also did the analysis that don't you see that no matter what experience you have of sukham, of ananda, it only appears in you. You see, the locus of ananda is you. It's not like there is a scoop of ice cream which has ananda. It is just a scoop of ice cream. But when I take the ice cream and eat it and slurp it, then there is some place where ananda takes place. It is not happening in the ice cream, but in me. And it always happens on me alone. So I am the real locus of ananda. All of this has to be, vichara has to be done. If we don't this vichara, then it is the mimamsa is incomplete. So we've already started to do that as part of it. And then it was to see that really speaking, all anandas are your own, and if it is externally sourced, it is your own reflection. It is your own reflection. It's just like you look in the mirror and you feel good. You say, yeah, I'm okay. I look good. But it's not what looks in the mirror. It tells you what you are, which is reflected in the mirror, isn't it? So the feeling of goodness when you're looking at the mirror and hopefully you're happy about it is in you, not in the reflection of the mirror. Even though the mirror was responsible for your conclusion, you see, even though you pick up the ice cream from Safeway And if you are one of the youngsters, you don't eat ice cream from Safeway. Oh my God, there is this local place in Los Altos. It's called Tin Pot. It's just amazing how things have really come about. And when we first came to this country in the early 60s, ice cream cones were like 30 cents. That was expensive. Tin Pot. Then if we have to take our granddaughters there, they're advanced teenagers. And sometimes if you just want to reward them on something, you say, what would you like to do? We have to bribe them sometimes to take them to, where would you like to go for dinner? Right now they don't have any time. They're so busy with schools and colleges and exams and so on. They don't have the time for you. But if they find some time, then you can say, okay, where would you like to go? So they'll say, okay, we'll go here. And then after that, my wife will say, okay, don't you want some dessert? No, we are okay. But no, come on, let's have something. How about some ice cream? So they said, okay. So we go to this place called Tin Pot. Do you know what each scoop of ice cream at Tin Pot is? I think it must have been gone even more, but a year ago it was like $3.50 to $4. A teeny bit of little thing. You can't even ask for a taste of it from your granddaughters because you feel it's so little, let them eat the whole thing. So the thing is that you cannot really find the same source from Atma Vidya until you begin to really inquire into it. And slowly you find, yes, the amount of peace that I have, amount of happiness that I have is comparable to what I get outside. And this is a revelation. This should be a revelation. Because it's a revelation because, at least in the ice cream, you have to do something. You have to have yoga, right? You have to have yoga. You have to convert this into you. This is talked about a lot in the Shastra. How idam turns into aham. And by the way, vice versa. Once you eliminate all the, you do all the defecation and urination and so on, then what was aham becomes idam. And when you're eating something, idam becomes aham. Funny transformation takes place. And so anyway, we see all of that. It's very possible that it can be a source of happiness. Anyway, I'm going to go forward. I'm spending too much time on it. All right, so in the last class we saw, and this is an important thing to see. An important thing to see, so this is the theme of the end of verse of chapter 11. So I don't know how much time I will have to do this, but let me at least tell you the theme. It may not be exactly I may not go into the details of it. The theme is how the Ananda as a source of Atma Vidya expresses itself. This is the theme. And it's a theme meaning, that's a subject, that's the topic. Theme means topic. So it doesn't mean that Is it sudden or is it gradual? And I remember 6-7 years ago when this example was presented by Swami Maheshananji, it really appealed to me. I had not seen that example before. I kind of sensed the truth of it, all these years, but sometimes the way it is presented with the kind of example that is given, it clarifies things instantly. And that is happening to me these days when I'm reading Swami Akhandanandaji's books. The same things that I have been reading for a long time, but it really now catches me with the clarity that I never saw that before. So that happens from time to time. So this example given by Swami Maheshananji 6-7 years ago, something like that, was very instructional. So the example is to clarify what is the process of gaining ananda from Atma Vidya. This is the process. This is the text, context rather. So the example he gave was very nice. He said, imagine you are traveling. And if you travel on business like I used to, from not extensively, but I would go from time to time into some new places. Like for example, I remember one of the people that used to work with us at Hewlett Packard sued us for some reason. I don't remember the reason for it, but they sued us. So our legal department, they approached me and said, we have had this suit against us, and we want you to be the person who meets with the judge and presents our viewpoint, because we are not guilty of this accusation. But you have to do that. So I said, fine, I'll be happy to do that. So they said you'd have to go to Indianapolis. I had never been to Indianapolis before, but they said this is where you have to meet with the judge and there will be some discovery and so on. So I said, fine. So I went to Indianapolis. I'd never been there. And I think I reached there in the evening. Next day there was a deposition. So I reached there in the night time, almost like 8 or 9 o'clock. And as usual, I think I took a rental car. In those days, there was no Uber. And just went to the hotel and then went to my room and so on, and maybe ordered some room service. I don't remember. Anyway, this is the example given by Swami Maheshananji. Swami Maheshananji says, suppose you go to a place that you've never been to, and you stay in a hotel, let's say, and you're on the 7th floor, and you look out and you say, I wonder what is behind this hotel. This is exactly what happened to me in Indianapolis. That's why this example becomes very important to me. Because I went there, I didn't know, it was at the edge of the town, and it was completely dark on behind the room, and I was on 4th or 5th floor or something. And so I was just looking out to see what was going on, and I couldn't see anything. Now this is Swamiji's example. He says, supposing you're looking out and you have no idea what the landscape looks like. So this is like you have no idea what the Anand, what the Atma is, what is the nature of the Atma. Jnanam. This is, so I try to avoid the word consciousness. I think I mentioned this to you. When I can't, I have to use that. Consciousness is a problem in translation because it sort of talks about something like a quality. This is not a quality, this is me. Samvit, this is the Purusha. This is Brahman, this is Atma. And if you translate into something which gives you a different feeling, Anyway, so I don't know anything about Atma. I'm only taking myself as a human being. So this is like the darkness. You have absolutely, and this is, by the way, is the truth. 99.9999999% of the people have no idea what the Atma is. It's the funniest situation ever. Tragic, actually, very tragic situation. That we really don't know our own self. We're born and we go through the whole life. Anyway, looking out of the window in the darkness is complete ignorance. Here comes Swamiji's example, which is the beauty of it. He says, while you're looking out, there happens to be a streak of lightning. Just then, just then, while you're looking out into this unknown landscape. And what you find is that lightning, of course, is very, very powerful generator of light. Amazing. Just in a second or so, even less than that, it tells you the entire landscape as though it was a day, close to a day, but in for a very short time. The day is steady, but the light of the lightning, even though equally strong, is very quick. And then it becomes dark again. But in that instant, while you happen to be looking out, you can say, oh my God, they have a beautiful back garden with swimming pools, and you can see that quickly. And then before you are able to make up some judgment about, how many paths where they have and what if their children's play area or not, all those kinds of details, it becomes dark again. But in that instant, you decide this is not a foresty area. In fact, it is well developed. Like that, something like that, you can make a decision. So, Atma Vidya is like that. Very much like that. I can tell you from my experience, I'm just conveying my own personal experience. This is what happened to me on that fateful day in June of 1973 when Swami Chinmayanand was talking about the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And I think it was, I don't remember exactly, but it was either the second or the third day when the whole thing just flashed in front of me. And when he was talking about the Atma, the facts that it is independent of time, this is your own nature, it is like a flash of lightning. I'm just telling you that. I was just stunned, totally stunned. I cannot even tell you my thought process. There's no thoughts. And I've already told you this many times. I recall this so well that everybody was leaving, and the janitors were starting to sort of close the place, and I was still sitting there. It was that much of a revelation to me. My God, this is who I am. All from the clarity of the words that Swamiji used. I'm very indebted to him. Just amazing. But guess what? As Swami Maheshananji pointed out, that just like a momentary lightning, it becomes dark again. But when it became dark, the knowledge of what generally that landscape is can never be erased. Never be erased. Done, done, done. But you have to await the dawn of the day when the steady sunlight comes up as opposed to lightning to reveal the intricate details of the landscaping which doesn't leave your mind. So the Atma Vidya is exactly like that. And that's what happened to me. It stayed with me for a long time and it changed my approach to life. Really did, honestly. I was walking around in a trance, not to frighten my family or anything. We're really just trying to be very calm, but it was not the same person. And yet, that trance, that revelation, that momentary experience did not translate into a steady state appreciation of the self. It was there, but in my transactions, my attitudes, my vyavahara, my conduct and so on, it was still covered by that. So my own ananda was not yet, it was considerably diminished. My dukkham, my problems were considerably diminished. I think this is what he's talking about here. But they were not gone yet. And so now becomes the dawning of the Vidya. The more you think about it, the more you begin to see, my goodness, this is not real. I am the one who is real. It's not an ordinary thing, not a trivial thing. That has to be earned and it takes a while. So this is the general context, the sequence, the theme, as I was mentioning, the word theme, of the last part of chapter 11. Okay? This is what it is. So let's now pick up the thread. So so we did verse number 114, if you remember last time, right? So that was 114. So let me now jump to verse number 116. And so now to preface, I've already given you a kind of a general idea of the theme, but a more specific prefacing of this theme is the introduction to verse number 116, which says the following: Manohi dvividam proktam shuddham cha shuddham eva cha ashuddham kama samparkat shuddham kama vivarjitam. Okay? So the introduction to the 116 is that the intermediate stage of inquiry, of study, to absorb this vidya, to do mimamsa and so on, will result the following. And so if I can preface it, the process would be as follows. In the beginning, there is only the joy of externality. This is called Vishayananda. So Vishayananda is an example of external joy, joy from emanating from things outside of you. It's called Vishayananda. So in the beginning, before you begin to study Vedanta, you only have Vishayananda. Then when you start to be introduced to the way of thinking and you are revealed this Atma, then for quite a while the Vishayananda and Brahmananda, Brahmananda means Atmananda, my own knowledge, my own Ananda, not externalized, but the real Ananda. So both the external Ananda and the real internal Ananda, it's not internal, that's me actually. So there's nothing internal to me. So my Ananda and the external Ananda coexist. So this is an important thing to see, that they both coexist. In stage one, there was no Atmananda, Brahmananda, only Vishayananda. But then slowly, as the Vishayananda, the Atmananda is introduced to me, it begins to make its presence felt. I can begin to see really I don't have to do anything in order to be happy. But not clearly enough. It gives glimpses of it. In any case, there is a coexistence of Vishayananda and Brahmananda. And the proportion of the two will keep on changing. In the beginning, and this is very logical and very reasonable. Then in the beginning there was, I can do it like this. So in the beginning, there was only Vishayananda. So it's kind of like a scale if you want to. And so there was no weight on this side, and really, the other way around. All the weight was over here. Yeah, so the other way around. I'm just saying the scale was, I'm just talking about the height. So one side of the scale was very high, the other one very low. But then slowly the scale changes where this becomes less. First it was 100% 0 and 0%, then becomes 90-10 and becomes 80-20 and like that. It keeps on changing. So for a while the two of them coexist. I get a little bit of ananda from myself, but most of it is still from eating, doing this, that, or the other. Okay? And when do I get the ananda from myself and when do I get it from outside? This is given in verse number 116. Okay? So 116 says, and 116 and 117 both. Let me read both of them and then I'll explain both of them together. Manohi dvividham proktam. Manaha is talked about in both ways. Manaha means the mind. Mind is talked about in two ways. Dvividham means two ways. Shuddham cha ashuddham eva cha. Impure and pure. Impure and pure. So these are the two states. And so the impure mind gets its joy from external things, and the pure mind gets the joy from itself. Okay? This is what it is. Manohi dvividam proktam shuddham cha ashuddham cha. Then what do you mean by impure? So he explains it. Ashuddham kama samparkat. Ashuddham means that it is accompanied by desires, by kamana. You abdicate your own reality, but you now say, I wish I was like this. I wish I could do this. So at that very moment, you disown yourself. No, I'm not very happy right now, but if I did this, then I think I will be happy. This is what is called ashuddha manaha. And then he says, ashuddham kama samparkat, shuddham kama vivarjitam. And what purity means? It is devoid of kamana, of postponement, of desires, of disowning yourself, and just saying, my God, I'm okay. I'm okay. And so this kind of my being okay requires some help, some assurance from the Shastra, self-discovery. I've never even accepted that. I'm always looking outside. I'm looking for self-acceptance by accepting from others. If people criticize me, then I become unhappy because I accept their viewpoint of my criticism. But for a jnani, outside criticism doesn't mean anything. Maybe the person doesn't know. I'm okay with myself. I'm the one that knows myself more than anything else. Why should I be depending on anybody else? This is called kama varjitam, vivarjitam. Vivarjitam means visheshena varjitam, absolutely gone. And then verse number 17 also echoes this. So let's go to number, Number 117 says, and I think this is could be from, I think it's very close to what Bhagavad Gita also says. Manaha eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho bandhaya vishayasaktam muktyai nirvishayam smritam. Manaha eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. He says the mental thinking, the mind of your own conclusion is the reason for either your being bound or your reason for your being free. You yourself keep yourself bound by your thinking. You yourself can free yourself by proper thinking. Manaha eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho bandhaya vishayasaktam muktyai nirvishayam smritam. Nirvishayam. So the second line is Vishaya asaktam bandha. You have just asakti. We have used this word before. You must be familiar with it by now. Asakti means that you just cling to it without any thinking. This is what it is. I've given the example that people who believe in any political party, one or the other, you tell them this is the defective way of looking at it. He says, I know, but I don't know. I am a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I believe in Trump. That's all. It's called asakti. And so similarly, the asakti is that of the manushya deha. This is I am the body. Okay, don't try to give me all these arguments. You are not the body. You are this. You are that, or the other. Okay, enough of that. I am just the body. This is called asakti. This is called a unshakable belief in certain way of identification. It's called asaktam. So bandhaya vishaya asaktam. That I am connected to vishaya. So the word vishaya also is a very interesting one. The one that keeps you bound is called vishaya. Badhnati iti vishaya. One that is, you are just tied to it. And so, muktya nirvishayam smritam. When you see that there is no reality of things outside of me, it is all borrowing my own reality. Mukti. So this is Shuddham and Ashuddham Manaha. So that's what it was talking about. You know what, I think I can finish this. I can really finish this. Yes, I think I'm close to it. Might as well finish it. So now towards the end of the, just give me about 5 more minutes or so, then I'll be done with chapter number 11. Oh, what do I do with my number 15 too? Oh, there it is. So I wanted to see what. So towards the end of the chapter, it talks about 2 important examples. Sorry for just trying to make sure that I'm covering this. So this process of the intermediate stage, which is really where we are in. We're all in that intermediate stage. I consider you all a jnani. Jnani in the sense that you're not as though you have become a Mahatma already. You may have become a Mahatma. Why should I not point? But we know that what the truth is, that there is a certain Atma that I'm ignoring. I didn't know this before. This I know. So in this intermediate stage where I have both the things going on, there are 2 examples given. One on verse 126, if you want to make a reference of this and if you're studying this in Pancadasi. I mean, you can do the rest of them. I'm just giving you the overall sense of it. One on 126 and the other one on 130. Few examples given. The 126 is, the example given is that of the vision of a crow. C-R-O-W, crow. I mean, I also didn't know this. So it appears that the crow has only one eye, not 2 eyes. And one eye is enough to see things in 2 dimensions. I really don't know how it can get how it can conduct itself with only two axes. Because 2 eyes are necessary for the depth perception, isn't it? That's why Ishvara has given this separation of the 2 eyes. And so you try doing this. Supposing you close one eye, and supposing you want to put your finger into, it will not go directly automatically. because you don't have the depth perception. You have this axis here. So 2 eyes are given to human beings, but the crow apparently has only 1 eye. So what it does is, it looks this with 1 eye he has to go this way and the other eye goes this way. So this is what is called kakasya drishti. So a intermediate person has kakasya drishti. What does that mean? It means that at one point it goes into Vishayananda, and yet when the experience of the prarabdha karma is over, it has the ability to close the eye and just enjoy itself. So this is what is called Brahmananda. So you have Vishayananda like one side, but it also has the Brahmananda. But the Brahmananda is not there all the time. You also have a drishti to you get engaged in the outside, but you also have the ability not to engage with the outside, just be yourself. You do have that. So this is what is called kakasya drishti. This is one example. The second example is that of a person that knows 2 languages. The language, which is what is given on 130, and so that means it is laukika language, lokasya bhava, the worldly language, and you also have Vaidika, Vedas, and so Shastrika. So you have both languages. Sometimes you are talking in the language of the outside world, and sometimes you're talking the language of what Shastra is telling you. So you have the ability to have 2 languages, one or the other. This is the stage of the intermediate level. And then slowly, then what happens is that the Shastrika language becomes predominant. You only think in terms of the Shastric language. This is exactly what happens when a person learns a new language, like we all did. I mean, I probably knew English at a very early age, but I can see people who did not know English for a long time, and they were very familiar with their own native language, not that comfortable with the English language. But supposing you move into a Western country where English is spoken and you have not really spoken your own language, like for example, my mother tongue is Punjabi. Actually, my mother tongue is Hindi, but my mother was born in Punjab and I live with my grandparents. So I used to speak fairly fluently. Now if I meet somebody from Punjab, from some Sardarji Sikh at the local shop, I can speak Gurmukhi. Gurmukhi is the Punjabi language, but not very fluently. I struggle with a bit. And so my familiarity with English becomes so effortless. That's exactly what happens to a Jivan Mukta. That pretty soon it becomes, the Laukika becomes in the background and the Vaidika becomes your own. This is the process that we have to go through. So, so this is what is called Yogananda, and with that, chapter number 11 is finished. And I think we have taken 11 classes for chapter 11. I think we will go much faster on number 12 and all the other ones, but we will cover it. So I think you'll have a good coverage of the entire Brahmananda, the 5 chapters of Pancadasi. Okay, so with that, let me close the class with a prayer. Om Asato ma Satkamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay, to see who is here. So nice to see all of you. That's so wonderful. Good, good, good. So I think you saw my email that we are not going to have class the entire next week. I'll be out of town actually right after the Aim for Seva, and we'll be back on Saturday night. And so for the entire week of Thanksgiving we always take a day off. I mean, a weekend off anyway. But here, because of the my going away, even the Tuesday and Thursday classes will not be held. So we will start by 2 weeks from now. So next Tuesday there will not be a class, but 2 weeks from today, which is 29th, we will resume these classes with chapter 12. We'll start with chapter 12, and so that's the plan for the classes. And Swami Swatma Vidyananda ji is conducting some classes, so I urge you to see what she has to say. It's all same sampradaya, and it'll be nice to get a kind of a different person talking. So if you can, please attend her classes. If not, then I will just see you anyway the week after next. Okay, if there's no other questions, I take your leave and I will see you later. Hari Om. Om.